Hello everyone, welcome to today's codecast. We have Toby Ateniola. He's going to tell us exactly how he was able to land multiple internships back to back with top tech international companies. And I'd like to open the stage to Toby to give us a quick introduction to himself.
Hello everyone. Like introduced, my name is Oluwatobi Ateniola. I'm a student of the University of Lagos, majoring in industrial mathematics and computer science. I recently got offers to join Bloomberg in the summer of 2021, Microsoft in the fall of 2021, and Facebook in the winter of 2022. And I'll be excited. I'm excited to basically walk everyone through how I got these offers, how you can get these offers also, and how I think you can excel and get multiple offers, even much more than I did.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, Toby. I noticed you mentioned industrial mathematics. Many people tend to think that in order to do this, you need a computer science degree. How exactly did you, what was part of this program that allowed you to also explore aspects of computer science? Was that something you actually did on the side?
Yeah, I think the industrial mathematics is also um, like another name for applied mathematics. Is also something that is very applicable in computer science. I can say computer science is a runaway field for mathematics. So it's something that I found easy to just use what I learned in my industrial mathematics classes to apply it into computer science. For example, one thing I worked on most recently was deep learning and computer vision, and my knowledge from my industrial mathematics classes was something that made me understand the algorithms behind most of the models I was working with and how to basically perform better in that particular role. So I think bridging mathematics and computer science is always a very good skill that um, you can utilize better as a computer scientist.
Yeah, that's true. There's some aspects of computer science where you notice like you're just doing mathematics, especially when it gets to the theoretical
Yeah.
topics. So was it like you were coding? Was part of your program, coding, or was coding something you also just took up on the side to supplement? Because you just mentioned deep learning, so it sounds like you might have been using Python already, or some.
Yeah. Yeah, so the way the course is structured is that half of my about I think two-thirds of my courses are mathematics, applied mathematics courses, and then one-third of my courses are from the computer science department. So I also got exposed to coding through the program, although not as extensively as someone doing a pure CS program. But one thing I love is utilizing open source online programs, online degrees to basically supplement my knowledge. So that was something I found very helpful using in my pastime. I utilized to get into deep learning. I think I utilized Udacity. I was able to get the deep learning nano degree, the computer vision nano degree, other resources also like Coursera. So they were basically what I used to supplement my skills and improve my skills as a computer scientist outside what I got taught in school.
Right, got it. Yeah, so it's definitely about being proactive and going after what you want to learn. And
Yeah.
I guess that makes me wonder, in terms of internships, did you do any hands-on work experience apart from just coding on the side? Like, did you actually work somewhere maybe for a short period of time to learn about software engineering?
Yeah, I did. I had I had a single in terms of my professional experience. I had a single one, which was an internship I did with iCube Labs. It's a company located in Yaba, Lagos, Nigeria. Also, one I did after was an open source contribution to OpenMind. I contributed to the Tripio framework. So Tripio is a framework that aims to serve as a bridge for machine learning libraries. So for you to have like a unified output, you could pass in code from maybe PyTorch or TensorFlow or JX, and it's able to like find a unified output for those different machine learning libraries. So those are basically the things I contributed to and the company I worked with leading up to my applications.
Interesting. So how did you apply for the internship at IQ Labs? Did you go through the door, or maybe was there like a tech event where one of the team members was there? Like, how did you find that first internship?
Yeah, so the way I got my like getting internships, even getting local internships in Nigeria is also not something easy. A lot of times you don't get called, or a lot of times the replies you get to probably the people that want you to work for free, because they see it as an opportunity to train you, unquote. So with TyCube Labs, it was actually a great experience because I got paid and I had the opportunity to work on interesting projects. So the way I was able to get into the company was through a referral from a friend of mine that was interning there. So he referred me to the management, and then I got invited for an interview.
Right, got it. And then with the open source contributions, I know what some people do is they just keep making some pull requests to some code base, and then people
Yeah.
eventually say, hey, why don't you join as a contributor to this project? What was your path to being an open source contributor?
Yeah, so with OpenMind, I'd already been exposed to the organization before. So the way I got exposed was in 2019. The now degree I did at Udacity, the one for the deep learning, I was able to get into a scholarship, which was sponsored by Facebook and OpenMind. So the scholarship was a challenge where they picked, I think, the top the top 300 people from the challenge were taught different privacy protection mechanisms in AI, differential privacy, federated learning, encrypted deep learning. So that aspect of the challenge was sponsored by OpenMind. So that was how I got my exposure to OpenMind. By the end of the program, some people from the program joined OpenMind, while I didn't really have the time nor the interest at that particular point. So leading into 2020, around June, July, I think I stumbled upon an article by OpenMind, and I just decided to do more exploration. So what I did was I went to the website. I realized that they had a Slack channel
Mhm.
where the various contributors are, and also like the actual employees are. Then I just joined the Slack channel. I hit up some of the people managing different repositories to get an idea of the particular tools, the particular languages that are needed for each of the projects that OpenMind was working on. And that was how I got into TripU. I found it very exciting. And then I contacted the person that was in charge of the TripU repository. Then he basically served as a guide to me, explaining how I could contribute to the repository, and also inviting me for the meetings they usually hold weekly. And yeah, it was basically a smooth process. When I make a particular pull request, I just message him on Slack channel to tell him to check out what I did. If there are any issues, he's going to tell me what he thinks I should correct, and if the pull requests are fine, then he's going to just help me with it and merge it to the repo.
Yeah. Nice. So now in terms of we've seen, so the work that you did that led you up to now applying for the international companies. So maybe let's start with like the very first international company you applied for. There are people who came to your university, for example, for some programs, or how exactly did you start the application process for the internship
Right.
you now have?
Yeah, so I've been passively applying for programs. What I mean by passively is that um, like their two organizations are very prominent among Nigerian schools, Goldman Sachs and Bank of America. So usually when those guys come to recruit, everyone hears about it, and then you just apply. So I usually do that without putting much preparation or much vigor into it. So I've been doing that since I think maybe late 2018 to um, like from late 2018. But like the interview that I started actually looking at as an opportunity was one I did with Google, which was late 2019. So I and a friend just applied to the website. We saw the opening and then we applied. And even when we applied, it was already a bit late because I think it was around November, December, and usually openings for summer of openings for the summer internship of the next year usually come out around June, July.
Mhm.
So coupled with the fact that we're applying late and coupled with the fact that we're applying from Nigeria, we didn't really expect it to get anywhere. So we applied, and then later on, I think in like 2, 3 weeks, we got a feedback that we should take the online assessment. We took the online assessment, and then we got an invitation for the phone call, which was actually very terrible. The interviewers were actually very nice, but it was very terrible from my side. I performed woefully, but that was basically how I got into looking at these opportunities because um, at the same time, while it was disappointing, it was also something that motivated me. That showed that if I could get to this stage with Google without like preparing, because the only preparation I did was using cracking the coding interview, trying to just use a single week to learn as much as I could. So that was basically what just pushed me to use the remainder of the year to keep practicing to get more prepared for future roles I applied for.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually, there's some very key lessons there that even if, even if it's late, like even if it's even if the person perceives that they might not have a chance, like it's still worth it to put in something. There's no point
Yeah,
just justifying yourself until, like, if you never applied, then it may be likely that you may not have even gotten some motivation to come.
yeah,
So those that's
yeah,
some very important life lesson there.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
also like to learn, learning from disappointments also. Um, I mean, I could have made that weigh me down. I could have looked at it and be like, this is not for me. You understand?
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not up to this, but it was one of the things that I decided to use as a motivating factor to keep pushing myself ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and I know I want us to also continue on the timeline. So we've seen late 2018 to like early 2019, but I was
Yeah,
wondering, at a high level, could you just describe what was on your resume, like the resume you submitted in? Or you've already mentioned that
Google.
you had the internship with IQ Labs, and you also had the open source contribution. Were those like the two core projects that's
Those were before. Those were before Google. So
oh,
at that particular point, I didn't have any professional experience. Like I hadn't actually done much. I think what I had on my resume was so what I decided to do because I like even at that time I didn't even have a resume for the application.
mm,
So I just wanted to come up with a resume without actually having anything that I think I had done to put in a resume. So a lot of what I packed were just like certifications at end. From Udacity, Coursera, I just put a lot of certifications.
mhm,
Also like my education, and then there was like a particular minor tutorship I did. That was like mathematics, just like normal tutorship in school.
yeah,
So I decided to put that. I think that was basically what I had in my resume. And yeah, like I cringe when I look at that resume now because of how terrible it was. Um, it was after the Google affair that I decided to like really reevaluate myself. So it was one of those things I looked at that okay, what are the things I need to get turning up to when uh because usually application opens up around June, July. So I had the goal of from now to that time, there are certain things I want to get to make myself a more attractive candidate. So I
mhm,
was looking at the professional experience. I was looking at the open source contribution. I was looking at hackathons. There was an hackathon from United Nations that I competed at and won during that period. So all those things, professional experience, open source contribution, leadership activities, hackathons. I was looking at all those things to basically level up before I start reapplying to become a better candidate.
yeah, yeah. So I guess maybe let's dive into that a little bit because part of that timeline, it sounds like from January, is this correct? From January 2019 to about July of 2019, was that when you now started this application, or was it
Yeah,
year 2020? Okay.
yeah, yeah. From no, from 2020 rather,
Oh,
January. Around I'll say around the Google interview started around late 2019, and I got the rejection
okay,
around early 2020. So
okay, okay.
I started applying around June, July 2020. So from like February to that period, that was when I was working on my professional experience, open source contribution.
Yeah.
And while I was doing that, I also kept on doing that up to late 2020. But I started actively seeking out roles around June, July of 2020.
Interesting. So that's actually during the pandemic,
Yeah,
while the lockdown was on. So like
yeah.
then, how many hours a day did you spend on this? Because it sounds, it sounds very intensive. How many hours did you spend a day? But then, what would you actually recommend for people as something sustainable?
Yeah, I think I think if you can target like three questions a day, like if leetcode is a resource you're using to prepare for like technical interviews, I think if you can target three questions a day, it's something very sustainable. If you look at it, if you target three questions a day, we have 30 days a month, we have 90 days in 3 months. That will be 90 times three. which is that'll be like 270 problems in 3 months if you can target, if you can have the discipline and the consistency to target 3 questions a day. So in my own case, I did something like that up till August, because that was when I quit my internship at IQ. So up to August, I was, although there are certain days that I decided to procrastinate, or maybe I got lazy, but like for like a very good degree, I kept up that consistency of 3 questions. If I can eat 3 questions, maybe 2 questions. But when I like ended my internship, then I just went all in, and I was doing as much as 15, 20, because that was basically all I was doing all day.
Hmm. Okay. So would you recommend people focus on the number of questions rather than the number of hours spent? Like, is it like which do you feel value is more valued? Like in a single day, should they focus on a stretch of hours or actual problem solved?
That's an interesting question. I don't think I can give an objective answer to that, because, for example, if you want to focus on the number of hours, you could get like um, you could focus on the number of hours, and then you could get some really difficult questions. Maybe let's say you're solving random problems, and then the questions like you stumble on that day that you have on your checklist to solve are really difficult questions, and then you waste your, you understand, you have an, basically the hours you set ends up becoming unproductive. And you could also set like it to be like, certain number of questions, and then regardless of the hours, then your goal is for you to reach the question. But you could also waste a lot of time trying to reach the number of questions you've set. I think it's you just finding the one that works best for you. To be honest, I think both of them have their own particular pros and cons. So I can't really say I have like a definite answer for that. Based on your own experience, um, the reason I decided to use the number of question, like decided to use like certain number of questions, was because of I had like the questions I calculated to have solved that so particular time.
Yeah.
But when I had more time to go into like practicing after I did my internship, I wasn't really caring about the questions. I like, my main goal was that I just wanted to use my day to solve as many questions as I could,
Okay.
because I had the time. You understand? I guess the reason I tried to use number of questions when I had like just 2 3 hours to solve per day was because I wanted to optimize my time as much as I could. I feel like it could have been an excuse for me to be lazy if I don't focus on that, and I can just decide to waste the limited time I had at that time on maybe a single question or 2 questions. So I think it's just subjective based on your own experience.
Yeah, yeah, that's I think those are interesting points. I hope people are able to figure out what works best for them.
Yeah.
And now, what's on my mind is these questions specifically. Like, where did you find them? What were they? Were they based on certain topics? How did you prioritize, some topics over others? Over this, 270. Let's say you went for 270 questions in 3 months. Like, how did you then prioritize some questions over the other? And then, did some companies have questions that they prefer to ask and all these kind of things? How did you prioritize them?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. Like if I should pull up my lead code heat map like for my profile, um, you'd see that I don't know if I could do that real quick.
Yep.
Let me open the page here and just share my screen. Um, let me see. Okay. Share screen. Chrome. Okay. I don't know if my screen is visible.
Yep.
Yeah, so I haven't solved in a long time, since like January, February, so it's quite empty there. But if you look at like the number of questions I've solved, you see that like there's a concentration on medium problems. I've solved 349 million problems out of 980 million problems. Um, that's because a trend that I realize, and I think a lot of people are aware of, is that most of the difficulty that most of the questions you get asked would likely fall under the medium category in an interview. So that was why I decided to prioritize solving medium problems over solving hard problems or solving easy problems. So what I used to do mainly was to solve medium problems randomly. If I get occasionally I could sprinkle in some hard problems or some easy problems, but my main concentration was to solve medium problems. And also, during the whole process, there are times when I feel weak in certain um, like certain type of problem, maybe because of me not solving those problems for like a particular extended period. So if I'm feeling weak in a certain domain, let's say I feel I'm feeling weak with graph problems, then I can decide to prioritize solving graph medium problems over um, let's say string manipulations or sliding window medium problems at that particular point. Those were like things I did. And one thing I like to do was that when I have like a particular interview in sight, let's say I have a particular company that I'm interviewing towards, and then I have like a date where I'm meant to have an interview, maybe in a week or two. At that particular moment, I use the sort function on leetcode, which is actually a premium function, a premium feature, by the way. So you can sort by company, and then when you sort by company, you can also sort based on relevance and sort based on time also. So I would use the sort by company to check out problems for that particular company, and then I sort based on um, question frequency for the past 6 months, and then basically just rank it based on the the frequency from the most frequent to the least frequent in the last 6 months. So that
Yeah.
will basically be all I'll do up to that particular moment. And the main goal was for me to basically get an idea of the kind of questions to expect from that company. The objective was not to get a question I'd seen before, because a lot of times you don't even get that, because companies, most big tech companies are famous for purging out questions from their question pools when it has been leaked. But at the same time, a lot of them still stick to a particular pattern. Like a lot of them favor a particular kind of question or some kinds of questions. So that was what I hoped to achieve by solving their company specific questions, so that I can prepare myself towards, let's say for that particular moment, if the company's strong suit is sorting problems and graph problems, I want to be as strong as I could on those kind of problems at that particular point. So that's basically why I decided to go with that.
Yeah. So I think maybe something that comes to mind now is, let's choose, let's say one of the companies you got hired, you got an internship for. Let's see, could we walk through what you did from like start to end, and like submitting your resume, preparing for the questions, and then just as you said, you've already described sorting. Maybe if we could also see it on this website too, and then what you did, like maybe the day before the interview. Like, could we just, maybe for one company that you prefer, if we could just walk through everything end to end.
Okay. Um, Looking at the heat map from this thing, I think the reason why the heat map here is very thick is because this was when I was preparing for Microsoft.
Hmm.
Like actively preparing. I think for this December was for Facebook, and I think in between September and October was for Bloomberg. I think so.
Sure.
So like what I did was I like at this particular moment, let me use Bloomberg as an example. So um there's a reduction in frequency because my goal is to solve random problems without any particular focus. And at this particular point, I was still working at iCube Labs up to August. So I think this was around when I left. So this is September where I increased the intensity. So I basically solved random problems up to the point where I sent my application. After I sent my resume, and I'm not sure if I sent a cover letter, I still kept on solving medium problems up to that point. But when I got the invitation for the first interview, I think there were three interviews. No, I think there were four interviews: two algorithms and data structures, one system design, and one behavioral interview. Um, I basically just started solving the company specific problems, like I said. So that will be um, from, I think, all the way from September to October. So I don't like pushing interviews. I know a lot of people like extending their interview dates as far as they can. So I usually like making it just a week. I like giving myself just a week because I feel the added pressure would make me want to work
Yes.
as hard as I can, want to work extra. And one other thing I looked at also was the fact that the roles are limited, and I feel I'll be doing myself more harm if I keep pushing it. While other people are getting offers and the roles get filled up. So I like to just end everything as fast as I could. So I guess that's basically what I did, solving the company specific questions at this particular point
Hmm.
and interviewing for them. So up to when I get an invitation for the interview and I get a date, that would be my sole concentration, solving company specific problems. And then once I'm done with the whole interview process, I go back to solving random problems. So for the system design, I use a channel on YouTube. I think it's called um, Gurav Sen.
Yeah, yeah,
Let me see if I
that's
can. Yeah. So I think I use this guy's channel on YouTube. Um, so this was what I basically used for system design.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think one other thing I used was um what do they call it? I read a book also called um what is the name again? I think Groking the System
Sure.
Design Interview.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I can't really list a particular result because I got it from a friend.
Mm.
But that was basically those were basically the two resources I used for the system design interview for Bloomberg. And I think up to that particular point, I probably stopped um I probably stopped leetcode just to focus on system design. I
Mm.
don't know if it's visible on the heat map. Maybe probably around, I don't know, maybe these days or somewhere. I'm not really sure of the timeline.
Okay. Okay. So you use LeetCode for the data structures and algorithms, and
Yeah,
then you use other resources like Guerrero's YouTube channel, other YouTube channels, and you use the Grokking, the system design interview,
yeah,
just understand at a high level how to do designs and architecture for
yeah,
companies. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I also used Pramp for um I also use Pramp. I think I created a Google a
Mhm.
slideshow. Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
these were like there were some of the resources I used to prepare. I used LeetCode. I used Pramp
Hmm.
for mock interviews, and I had a community of I had like a community that was involved with. We were just like 20 students in Unilag. I think we had some members from UI, from OAU also. So we used to organize mock interviews every week. We pair ourselves with a website we created that does that randomly, and then we basically just organize mock interviews. We post the questions to the group chat, and then we explain it. There also some YouTubers I took advantage of, like Back to Back, SW, Nick White, Geomatech, and there was a specialization I took on Coursera, um, data structures and algorithm specialization. So I used two courses from the specialization, algorithmic toolbox and data structures. So these were the courses I used in particular from the specialization. Just these two courses, algorithm toolbox and data structures. I guess the other courses they actually look very interesting if you want to have like a really really solid um background in algorithms and data structures that would actually help you as an engineer. So anyone with the interest of going through it, I would definitely recommend to go through the whole course in specialization.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I guess something that came to mind is maybe, did you have any question specific strategy? Let's say there's a question on dynamic programming, or how did you come up with strategies for each of the different topics in DSA and also for system design? How did you come up with the strategy so that once you see a question, you just figure, okay, this is the technique I need to use, or was it just was there any strategy at all?
Yeah. So one thing that I trained myself was to be able to see patterns.
Hmm.
Like a lot of problems. Um, so usually medium problems are problems that usually require either one or two techniques. Like maybe it's a graph problem or it's a combination of a graph and a sorting problem. That's like a trend I saw that medium problems usually require you to combine one or two techniques. Hard problems might require three or more, whereby it could be you might need to use certain different processes to break it down into different components. And that was something I tried training myself to prepare for, being able to see patterns very fast. And so one thing I did was when I solve problems, I don't beat myself up when I can't find a solution to a problem. So usually after an hour, when I can't find a solution after an hour, I just look up the optimal solutions. I look up different solutions in the leetcode discourse session, and then I just try to implement my own version of the solution so that I could understand and recognize that pattern again if I see a similar question later on in the future. So that was something I did to be able to recognize patterns. So when I get a problem in an interview, immediately my mind is already looking for the particular pattern. I'm already looking to identify certain keywords to be able to realize what kind of problem am I dealing with, to basically focus my thought process. And also, one thing I trained myself also was being able to formulate different, um, I'll call it boilerplate codes for multiple different kinds of solutions. So, for example, if I see a problem and I realize a sorting problem, I can write a merge sort algorithm in, let's say, 2 minutes or less, and basically just um, modify it to solve that particular problem. So things that would have taken me a lot of time, I already had them imprinted in my mind to be able to turn um,
Yeah.
the boilerplate for that particular kind of solution to code, so I can focus on fleshing out the more interesting stuff. So I had different boilerplates for merge sorts, sliding window, writing a BFS or a DFS, both iteratively and recursively. So different kind of techniques like that. So when I'm in an actual interview scenario, usually most of the interviews I did, apart from Facebook, I had about 30 minutes. With Facebook, I had about 15 minutes because it's 30 questions, 30 minutes for two questions. So
Hmm.
most of them, what I do is in, let's say, the first um, 5 minutes, I want to get an idea in 5 minutes. My goal is 80% of my time should be to write code and 20% of my time should be to find a solution, because I had the mindset that I want to be able to um, write as clean code as I can as possible. I want to be able to um, have enough time to write solid code and flesh out any errors or optimize. So I wanted to give myself as much time as I could to write code. So usually in 5 minutes, I want to already have an idea, explain my idea to the interviewer, and be given the go ahead to write my code. So once I'm done with that, I try to write the code as fast as I can while also explaining every single line of my code. There are a lot of times that when you explain lines of your code, and especially when you're on track, you might get certain prompts or hints from the interviewer that might tell you when what you're doing is good or when you're making certain mistakes. So that's also a very important thing to take notice of, explaining your thought process and also explaining the lines of your code to your interviewer. Then after that, without any prompt from the interviewer, you should um, go through your code, and then you should also run certain test cases. You would most times you wouldn't be compiling your test cases. You just be like dry running um, the test cases on your code, explaining what each variable is at the different points of the code, or which branch of the condition statements get executed, and then talk about the time complexity and the space complexity. A lot of times you might get prompted for those from the interviewer, but if you're proactive and you do that without the interviewer's instruction, I think it shows something to the interviewer that you know what you're doing, and you care about how optimal your code is. So those were basically what I think I utilized leading up to an interview and when I'm actually in an interview.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Like, having this structure going into it, like, okay, as for some point, I'm going to have to just do the quick bare bones first draft, and have to optimize it and
Yeah,
optimize it and make sure that it works for certain test cases. Because the examples
yeah,
they really give, my work, your code might work for just those examples, but if you just change one part of the,
yeah,
that changes everything up.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, a lot of times they like to give test cases that wouldn't really have any breadth or depth. So you can easily get deceived regarding the simplicity of
yeah,
the question.
yeah.
So it's also something I missed out, but it's also important for it to come up with tricky test cases when you're trying to validate your idea in your mind before you start writing code. So try and sort of like an integrity test. Try and come up with test cases that you think your idea would fail on.
Mhm.
You understand?
Yeah.
So that you don't end up wasting your time writing code on something that wouldn't work. what the interviewer just gives you a test case and then just spoils everything you've been working on.
Right, right. So I know I want us to move on to system design shortly, but would you say for each of the companies, is it that all the interviews are 30 minutes, or was it just were there stages? Did companies have like stages? Maybe initial interview, final interview. Like what were their stages, and would you say the level of difficulty increased as people moved across the stages?
I think it was basically the same thing, to be honest. I mean, for for Bloomberg, um, the two technical interviews were basically the same thing in terms of difficulty. One thing that I think changed was that the second one was more grounded in the sense that the first one was just a phone call, while
Hmm.
the second one had two engineers. So the video call with two engineers. I think one of them was a senior engineer. So after the end of the interview, I got asked a lot of theoretical questions about like how an hash map works, how the hashing process is, how is conflict resolution performed in an hash map. A lot of theoretical questions. That was like a change I think I saw. With Facebook also, it was also the same format. Two questions for each interviews, but the second interview had a behavioral section.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in terms of difficulty, it was very similar.
Okay, got it. Okay, so there technical, and then technical has so under technical there's data structures and algorithms, there's system design, then there's non-technical, which is behavioral interviews. So they just want to get to know you, from
Yeah,
uh, you know
yeah,
co-working perspective, no
yeah,
technical questions. Just want to
yeah.
get to know. Okay.
The behavioral interviews are also important because a lot of people just look over behavioral interviews, but I know of cases of guys that got rejected after
Mhm.
like crushing the technical stage and then um, after the behavioral interview giving mixed feedback to the hiring manager. So um, it's also something I think you could prepare for. What I did was um, using the star method and
Okay.
um I had like an Excel sheet where I had like different possible questions there, and then I had like different columns for the STAR, and then I basically just listed different points I could come up with for those questions I highlighted. So what I did was that when I have a behavioral interview, or maybe if I have an interview that have a behavioral section, I try to review the Excel sheet just to get those things grounded.
Yeah, yeah. I guess an overall theme I'm hearing from this is that it's very important to be, structured. Like the way you sort of organize, like your whole day, even gets down to, these little details like the start, having a grid for questions and start, in an Excel
Yeah,
spreadsheet. The person has
yeah,
to, sort of organized and to really take this as a structured process.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe before we've already looked through the different things you've been able to do, and even you've shown us lead code. I was wondering if maybe on the system design, would you be able to just touch on this specifically? Like, for many people who are just starting, their concept is okay. There's JavaScript and there's HTML, but they can't really get the concept of system design. Like, what exactly does that mean? How would they be tested for their understanding of an end-to-end system?
I think to get really grounded with system design, I think it's something you need to build through experience, like
Mhm.
through having the experience of actually building stuff. So if you have an interview that has system design, I think you just have to prepare for it. You have to learn um, how databases work. You need to learn how to handle redundancy in your database. You need to learn based on the particular kind of transactions you're expecting. What kind of database would be better, if it would be an SQL or a NoSQL database. You need to learn about caching, what kind of cache you're going to use. You also need to be good at making estimations. Um, you need to learn how to make assumptions and how to make estimations. How to ask your interviewer the right questions in order to make your estimations on the let's say the bytes, the bandwidth your system needs to support, the input data you're expecting, the output bytes, and those kind of things. Yeah. Also, you need to learn about architectures, if it to be a monolithic architecture, if it to be a microservice, and I think it's something that you really understand when you build things, but if you are preparing for a system design interview, I think you could use GraphSend. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You could use his YouTube channel to learn about those concepts, and then um, Google up system design questions and just get yourself grounded on how you could come up with interesting systems. And one thing I think you should also be open to is criticism in the interviewer. If the interviewer tells you is not happy with um your structure or your design, you need to be open to making sometimes overhauling adjustments where you overhaul everything. Um, I think there was a system design interview I did. I came up with a monolithic architecture. A monolithic architecture like an a how do I explain it? It's like a whole system handling multiple things
Okay.
compared to like a microsystem that have like multiple subsystems handling like different like aspects of the, let's say, the business requirement. So I came with a monolithic architecture that was handling multiple things, and the interviewer told me to change it to a microservice, and then how to change it to a microservice. Um, so it might be a bit the learning curve might be a bit steep. So um, the good thing is that a lot of companies won't ask you system design for an entry level engineer or for an intern.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the examples I know of is Bloomberg and Palantir that would ask you system design questions. So, um, except you have interviews with those companies, I don't really think it's something you could get. You should be bothered on right now.
Cool. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's very important. If it's an entry level internship, it
Yeah,
would be something they have to experience. I was wondering, would you be able to show like any advice you have, anything that you want others to know, maybe an example of how to structure a resume, or I see you have some other slides there. Is there anything you
yeah.
want people to know?
Um, so yeah, so something you need to be solid about would be your resume optimization. Like I've had multiple iterations of my resume, up to seven, eight iterations, iterations all the way from late 2019. And these were iterations I came up with after receiving criticisms from people running through ATS systems or rejections from applications. So one thing I would advise you to use would be ask professionals for reviews. Professionals that you have in your contact list, people that you know that have gone through like an extensive interview process, have interviewed a lot of companies. Send your resumes to them and ask them for criticism. And also be happy to receive the criticism you get and be happy to make adjustments. If you have recruiters in your personal contact, send the recruiters your resume to critique. You could use websites like, I think there's a subreddit called CS majors on Reddit. I think you could also send your resume there and it could get criticized for you. And a lot of tools for you to use for to get people to criticize your resume and for you to make modifications. And there's also a website that I would like to also um, bring forward. It's called Resume Worded. So this was something I use extensively. So the way it works is that you upload your resume and then it criticizes your resume.
Oh wow.
So once you upload your resume, it points out to certain things I think you need to modify in your resume. Let me see if I can do one real quickly. Um, So this was the highest resume score I got, 93 over 100. That was after a lot of optimization. I think I started out with a score of less of, I think, 15 or so. Um, so let me see if I can upload one just to show how it works. Give me a minute. Okay, this is the icon.
And is it free or is it paid as well?
Yeah, it has a paid feature, but I don't think you need it.
Okay.
I never paid for it. I use the free feature. I think it's also something interesting that I could see as a challenge where um you are being criticized on something, but it's not being shown because it's a premium feature, and then it's up to you to try and fish it out without, you understand, getting a direct um without getting a direct information on what in particular they are criticizing. So this is one of my resumes. So let me just upload it. I don't know if this is a new version, but let me see what resume what it does. So usually I did most of my work on Google Docs because I found it easy. The online compared to an offline word processor, I found it easy. Being able to use multiple systems and the integration with the browser. So most of what I did was with Google Docs. I think it's actually a very old resume. You can see the score is 31. I think this was the resume like the first resume I created after Google, if I'm correct. So these are some things it thinks I should work on. Um, Quantifying the impact, paragraph, bullet point length. So a lot of those things. When I look at criticisms like this, I just go to like the Google Docs to make my correction. This is a criticism on the brevity, the skills look good, the style look good. Let me see if I can find a newer resume and upload.
And I see it had something like career level. So based on the level of the applicants,
Yeah, I think it's one of the features you could also. I think maybe it's a premium feature, but one
okay,
of the things that I could turn on, you could also make it score your resume based on like the target career level. You understand, like what the career level you're targeting the resume for. If it's for an entry level position, or if it's for a senior level position, I think it can make certain modifications, or maybe it can become stricter on what it criticized based on the career level.
yeah, yeah. No, this is really amazing. Like using tools
Yeah.
to actually supercharge.
Okay, it's
Your,
actually it's actually not a premium feature.
okay, okay.
So let me put like a more optimized resume that should probably score something better. Yeah, I think this is a newer version. Um,
So I guess behind the scenes, it's all machine learning and AI
yeah,
and natural language processing. Yeah, this
yeah.
is amazing. Like I wish I knew about this. Well, now I do.
I think this is 83. Yeah, so this is much better than the previous one. I think I still have a better one, but it's probably not offline. But it basically improves on certain things. I'm using the criticism to improve on certain things. Um, I think with this one, there's an improvement with impact, but there are still some things I could improve. I think repetition, weak action verbs. If you click on it, also it identifies the things it notices you repeated. For example, one is identified. I wrote one 3 times in my resume. These are things that can come up to a recruiter as you just trying to use phrases to, you could use phrases to make your resume look good without actually meaning anything. Yeah, so those kind of things, when you repeat action verbs a lot of times, then it points things out like that for you to improve. Also, brevity, it criticized my use of bullet points. That I use a lot of bullet points. Um, Style, the dates are also not formatted properly. I think maybe because they are not in a reverse chronological order. Um, I think that's maybe a criticism it found. So things like that are things that you could have this opened on one tab, then you could open a Google Docs tab with your resume, and then you could just make the optimization. One thing that I would advise you to do is to use a single column layout like I did, compared to using a two column layout. It's usually more appealing to the eye. It's easier for recruiters to read your resume. A lot of times, recruiters have very limited time to go through multiple resumes, up to thousands of resumes. So you want to make that lasting first impression. and that's um what I hope to optimize when I work on my resume. That's why I make the design as simple as possible. Just looks like a regular document, black and white, just so that the goal is on efficiency, basically, not beauty. I want my resume to pass the information that I think it should pass across.
Yeah.
So that's basically using resume worded. Also, one thing I advise is to give grades a priority, but grades are not a great grades are not a priority, but it can give you an edge. So for applicants that might not be doing really optimally in school, and like don't make it um don't write yourself out because you think your grades are not the best. You can still get some roles if you can supplement it with great professional experiences and other things that you can use to elevate your qualifications. So if you have great grades, it's going to give you an edge. It's something good that you could put on your resume, but it's not something that you should make a priority. It's not something that you should use to write yourself out. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
don't
Definitely.
write yourself
Yeah.
don't write yourself out if you think if your grades are not the best. You could still get roles if you focus on working on them and also working on other things that you could show on your resume.
For sure. Yeah.
Also, it's best to have a prior internship. Most companies wouldn't want to take a risk on someone. Like most of the big tech companies don't want to take a risk on someone without any prior experience. So that's something I think you should also do. Um, that was something I was looking at when I ended my internship with IQ Black. When I finished my application with Google the first time after I got rejected, I noticed that one of the issues I had was the fact that I didn't really have any prior experience I could talk about. So that's one of the reasons I decided to look towards getting a professional experience and then working on my open source contribution. Also, show passion for tech, compete in hackathons, contribute to open source, be involved in tech groups like Microsoft Learn, Microsoft Student Partners, Google Developer Student Club, um, Facebook Developer Circles, a lot of tech groups like that on campus. It's also a great idea to be involved to those. So things like that are things I think would elevate your resume.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is all very useful information, Toby. I'm really happy that we've been able to go through this today.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had any final thoughts, any closing thoughts before we wrap it up for today.
Yeah, I think one thing that you should really focus on also should be your mindset. Um, I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. So be prepared to receive a ton of rejections. A lot of times you receive a ton of rejections. I haven't really heard of a person that didn't get rejected up to three times more than the positive feedback you get. I received more than 100 rejection, so be prepared to receive a ton of rejection. Spread your net as wide as possible. Apply to a lot of companies. Yeah, so there's a tool that I want to also there's a tool that I want to also show. It's a GitHub repo by Pittsburgh Computer Science Students Union. So what they do is that they created a really automated process that they upload roles as soon as they open up. So you want to give yourself that edge of applying as early as possible. When roles open up, you want your application to be one of the applications that the company looks over, so you have an higher chance of getting an interview. So this was something I use extensively. I visited up to 2-3 times daily. So usually once a role open up in less than 2 hours, they upload the role on this website and you can just apply directly. So once you click on it, it directs you back to the application page on the company for you to apply to.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so these are the applications that open for 2022. Just keep revisiting. As soon as companies start recruiting, they upload it here. So that's also something that I think you should do. Spread your net as wide as possible. Also, dissociate yourself emotionally from your applications, because a lot of companies would reject you. A lot of companies wouldn't really care about the passion you have. They are more concerned about what you can present to the company, what skills you have. So don't get emotionally invested to the extent that you get rejected and then it breaks you apart. Um, Basically, just get ready for rejection. I think it's also similar to the first point. Prepare for a ton of rejection. So apply and be prepared to get rejected. Keep practicing and never relent. That's something I advise. Just keep practicing, trust the process. Even while you get rejections, look at things you can optimize. Look at things you can criticize about your previous application to improve your next application and keep practicing. So also have the mindset that applicants in Europe, Asia, America are not smarter than you. That's something that a lot of us studying in Nigerian universities experience. Everyone knows that the education system in Nigeria is definitely not as good with those schools. But I think in terms of the quality of candidates, if we go through the proper training and the same training that those guys go through, we are going to give the same output. Um, so have that mindset that they are not better than you. They are probably a product of a much better system than the system you are in, but be prepared to compete with those guys. That you stand just as much a chance as they do. So that's something that I think helped a lot in building my confidence when I was competing with a lot of candidates from much better schools from first world countries, and to give me an edge into being able to give my best during my interviews.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. There's no, it's not about where anybody's from, or it's really just about access to these resources. Like, and thank you
Yeah,
for showing them. Like, one thing I'll do is I'll add this link to your PowerPoint in the
yeah,
description so that people can go through all the resources. Just as I said, majority of it is free, and or they're all free, and they have, some of them might have some paid features, but like, I think this is something.
I can just drop them in the chat. So um, I'll just drop the link to the PowerPoint in the chat. Um,
That's it. Yeah. Where do you think that people can find you? Do you have Twitter or GitHub or LinkedIn? What would be the best way to find you?
I think the best way to find me will be just send me a mail. I have a LinkedIn account and Twitter account, but it's not really active. So if you
Okay.
want to reach out to me, just send me a mail. As soon as I can come around, I'll reply to your mail. That's like the surest method that I'll probably see. Um, um, I'll probably see it, like the message you sent. I can't guarantee that if you message me on LinkedIn or Twitter, I might open them. But if you send me a mail, I'll definitely go through it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Thank you very much, Toby. I think
Yeah.
everyone who's going to watch this will have gained a lot. I myself have also gained a lot, and I think this is really important stuff you've done. On behalf of everybody from WeDeyCode and the WeDeyCode family, all our followers, we'd like to say congratulations and wish you the best of luck
Yeah.
for your internships.
Yeah.
And
Thanks a lot.
thank you very
Definitely.
much, Toby. All right, see you and
All
have a
right.
nice day.
You too. Bye.